She's,
Hey, Carol.
there we go, perfect. All right, and I'll maybe let, who would like to do introductions for a wonderful session?
I don't mind doing it. I know everybody that's on it. So
Awesome.
I'll start with Angela Wood, who has just returned back to our KW group. She was actually our team leader quite a number of years ago. So she has joined back at KW Referred, and her business has been new construction. And so she's done some mega wealth building for her clients and for a number of people. So that's wonderful. Deb Bennett's in our office. She's done a number of condos and new builds. And we have Carol Froderick, who sells everything and anything and extremely well, very successful. Laura Inward of much the same, dealing with builders and construction herself. And who else? I saw Paul Constable on it. So, oh, and of course, Kate, who is our legal advisor here with the new construction and condos and such. So I guess maybe, do you want to start, Angela, first, because you were on first, or?
Yeah, sure. I just kind of wanted to, can you see me and hear me, everybody?
Can, yeah.
Everybody's good? Hey, Deb. Perfect. So, I originally left Keller Williams to go and learn about pre-construction 9 years ago. And so I took a managing director position at the condo store downtown Toronto, and I didn't realize what I was getting into. There's an entire market out there that's off the MLS, that there's probably 10,000 more units a year, you know, than what we do on the MLS. It's a huge volume business, and there's a lot of agents, new agents, young agents that are coming up that have gotten a lot of they've done really well because it's a volume business. So it's a little different than resale, but I always say diversify. So this is hopefully a little bit of diversification. But so my company, my old company, we represented developers. We sold the developments. We've sold billions and billions and billions of dollars worth of condos for the developers. They come to us with land, and we develop it, and we go all the way through to the closing. So we do everything from the dirt all the way to the closing. So that's the development side. And then for agents, in my office, my old office, they would do volume sales in any development, whether we represented it as the company or not. And they got really damn good at it. So they got some really good models, you know, trial and error like everybody else. And they built some really great models. And we too, as a company, it was great. So I got the experience, and now I'm bringing it all back to Keller Williams. So I couldn't wait to get back to Keller Williams, and just in the nick of time with these extraordinary circumstances that we're under. So the lawyer, Kate, right? Legal advisor might be able to help today, because there's a lot of things that are happening currently with the market. So I don't know if anybody just wants to ask questions, or because there's a lot. It's a big area. It's like saying, hey, let's talk about real estate, and it's the same thing. Let's talk about pre-construction. It's the same thing. There's a lot of different areas. So make sure that it's that you guys get out of this what you want and what you need.
So I have a question. I have a question, Angela. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Sure.
So I know I actually haven't done a lot of work in this area, but I have clients who have come to me and said, I see they're digging a hole at Young and Wellesley, and I'd be really interested in buying a condo there. What can you tell me about it? And perfect. I'm always at a loss.
So I'll tell you one thing, Deb, and that is once you see the hole, we've already sold those units maybe 2 times, right? We might have sold that building 3 or 4 times because of the rescind, right? So we sell the buildings out probably 4 or 5 years before construction starts. So if you see a shovel in the ground or a hole in the ground, there is nothing left. It's already 85% sold or more, if not entirely sold. So most developers use the money as leverage from the sales in order to dig the hole.
Okay, so they see a sign that says,
okay, coming soon. Perfect. So you call somebody who's in the know. So I can be your resource for that. You can Google, find out as much information as you possibly can. But just like the news media, you know, there's lots of things that change, and it happens now. It's changing on a daily basis. So things that I don't expect we're going to see any new launches for the rest of this year, simply because we've missed the spring market now for the development. It's what you have to understand is millions and millions and millions of dollars are spent by the developer before they even get approvals from the city. So they'd like to do sales as soon as possible so that they have that leverage and the money to be able to move on to the next phase of the development. So yeah, so call me, Deb. If you, Google as much as you can, and then that's the best way. Just do as much research. And the other thing too is there's BuzzBuzz Home has a lot of information. I remember when they were brand new, Candace, I don't know if you remember that or not, but we started to do some stuff in Advantage with them when they were a brand new company, BuzzBuzz. So they have a great listings of if your clients are looking in an area, you know, North York or downtown, something specific. And then the other one is Urban Toronto is a great resource. They usually know everything that's going on, and they usually have everything up to date. They don't do sales, they're more of a resource. So about the developments. And then the City of Toronto or the municipality of where the development is. Ottawa, the same thing, or Waterloo, London. It's the same model everywhere. So does that help, Deb?
Can I just pipe in a little bit, Angela? Because I just
Carol.
screen share for everybody if you're following along and you want some information on BuzzBuzz Home. So similarly, I usually will start my search for a pre-construction project there. So if somebody tells me, you know, I want to buy in whatever, the Junction, I'm just going to share my screen, guys. Hold on for a second.
Perfect.
So I've just gone on to, if you guys can see that now, can everybody see this? So this is buzzbuzzhome.com, and then it will it'll direct you to the Toronto site. You'll want, or the Canadian site. So if you say like, oh, I don't know if this will let me do it while I'm screen sharing. Hold on for a section. Okay, hold on. So here's like the Junction House, and this is buy. You can also do rent and sold, but so you're gonna go here. This is one particular project. So you can search either by the project name or by the neighborhood, and a bunch of little dots will come up as well, and it'll give you different projects in the same neighborhood. So that's usually where I'll start. And then you're going to see when you're on these sites, like BuzzBuzz Homes, you're going to see that there's information here where it says contact buyer's agent. And then this is how presumably how BuzzBuzz makes money on this. They're selling leads to this person here, like Michael, who is from Home Life Landmark. So he's an agent just like we would be. If you were like an unrepresented buyer, you could, you know, email that person and they would respond back to you with a package. But you can see, so that's if you want to send him, you know, Michael from Home Life Landmark a message. You probably don't. It also gives you the option of contacting the sales center directly. And then you can email directly there. You can also just Google search like Junction House and then look for the actual sales website for that project.
It's at the bottom of that page.
Yeah, and then sometimes the website is all,
because if you Google the website, you're going to get all the agents that are trying to sell that project. So trust me, there's 1,000 websites. So go to the bottom and find out who's the actual sales company representing that development. And if there isn't a sales company there, it means they haven't gotten that far yet.
Yeah, it'll also show you, sorry, when I go back, I just want to show you guys, it'll show you where they're at in terms of the construction too. So you can usually see, hold on, where is it? Construction status. So it'll either say like pending, pre-sale, this particular project is already under construction. So it'll show you where. So sometimes it's like pending, they don't even have a sales center open yet. So you can let your clients know if they're interested in that particular project. But yeah, you're absolutely right. A lot of times you have to kind of muddle through a lot of agents that are kind of branding themselves as the Junction House expert or the Junction House agent. And then you're speaking to them and you realize that's not actually the sales center. So yeah, but when you do get through to the sales center, you just say, the first two questions you ask are, you know, whatever, it's Carol, I'm calling from Keller Williams. I want to confirm you're cooperating with outside brokers. In most cases they are. So that means that they're paying you some commission to bring in, you know, a buyer on the transaction. And then the second question is, can you send over floor plans and price lists? So they will literally just send you an information package with all of the floor plans, all of the price lists of available units. Usually that informational, it'll have information on like projected completion date and estimated maintenance costs and any incentives, the cost for parking, all of that. So you can share that with your clients. And then I also just want to mention as well that it's important that if your clients are interested in a particular project, it's important you get out in front of it and get the information for them, because if they go to the sales sites directly and register with the builders, it can preclude you from being able to collect a commission relating to that, even if they do end up buying and want your advice on it. So I always, when I'm working with buyers of pre-construction, I always make a point of like actively going to procure the information for them and letting them know, hey, if you register directly with the builder, you may forego your opportunity for outside representation, which doesn't cost the buyer anything. It's paid by the builder the same way it is paid by a seller. So I always make a point of telling them that. And then also if they like what they see on the floor plans, then the next step is to make an appointment at the sales center, or sometimes I'll just tell you, you know, we're open between whatever 12 and 5 on Saturday. You want to be there with your clients when they walk in the door so that you can register as their agent and they'll ask you for your business card. So that's the way I get started anyway. Sorry, I've had too much coffee today, clearly already. I'm going to stop my screen share now. Any questions about that, guys?
Muted. There, I'm unmuted. Carol, that's awesome. I just wanted to put in there for some of the new agents that are on here, whenever you're doing a buyer presentation, your representation, getting your buyers signed in, explain to them about new builds. If they enter a new build site like that, you can't represent them because the new builder is working for the builder and they're going to get them signed up, and you cannot help them in any negotiations such as another parking, maybe a free locker, maybe, you know, different things. So make sure, because there's so many buyers may wander off and see a new site. But that's great, Carol. Thanks.
If I could just add just to Carol, so there's different phases of pre-construction sales, right? So the friends and family is usually the first event that the builder has. Of course, it's kind of like a soft launch, kind of like a restaurant. So they have a soft launch, and those agents that are usually a part of the company that's going to be doing the sales and marketing for that developer, that's when they sell most of the best units. So if you've got like an unusual building with 2 terraces that are 500 or 1,000 square feet, usually the developer's friends and family, and that's you know, that's good. They're, you know, their friends and family are investing in the buildings that they're building. So that's usually the first tranche, and we usually sell maybe 20 to 30 units on a good night with a family and friends. It could be 50 depending on the building. And then the next launch is the VIP, which is actually not even VIP, it's actually platinum. So there's a handful of agents that the builder will reach out to, which is their top producers, right? So the people that do volume, that will take allocations off their hands. And then there's the next phase. Like if the sales center is open, that means those are the units that are left after the 3 or 4 events that the builder has already had. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's some great units out there and the prices, but for every launch, the prices go up. So from the friends and family, that's the least expensive. Those are like almost wholesale costs. We're just kind of testing the market to see what the pricing should be. So if you have an opportunity to get to know developers, then that's, you know, then that's a good way. And that's usually through the salespeople. Like Carol had said, you know, when you go into, you know, it's like getting a listing, right? You know, how do you get to know people is you know, work on your relationship. So you go in and you talk to the salespeople at the sales center. And then, you know, when they favor you, then, you know, they can send you information. But it's kind of, you got to work on getting into the earlier phases. But either way, it's all good at the beginning or in the middle or at the end. Even at the end, they've got 2 or 3 units. I know in this building that I'm in, we picked up some great bachelor suites. All 3 of them were left over. They said, we don't care. We'll just sell them for exactly what, you know, we're building them for. And we got a great deal for our clients. So there's always deals. There's always, as long as it fits in the budget, it's always good. Yeah. And the prices are a little bit more than resale, right? As I think everybody knows. Yeah. I think you're
trying to
muted,
host
Kate.
this. If maybe we could, Kate, I'm sure that, I mean, I know I have a lot of legal questions. Anybody have some legal questions for Kate?
I have 1,000.
1,000.
but I think that's an after call. That's it. You know, I'm going to call you later because,
Sure.
yeah, because of what's happening in the market. So we've got, it's a really interesting time, right? So developers are not developing, they're stopped, you know, launching. And if anybody remembers 2008, you know, that's why we had a shortage in 2017 because developers stopped selling in 2008. And so we had nothing in 2017. So if this is what's happening now, then, you know, be forewarned in a couple of years. And we still have a shortage of about 200,000 units a year. So, Kate,
Sure.
I'll leave it to you.
I'll talk about a few things. You can certainly call me or email me with any questions afterwards. You guys are the ones that have your fingers on the pulse of what's going on and what projects are launching and that sort of stuff. Where we get involved, well, I just wanted to note sort of that to me, it's imperative that buyers have their own agents. And sometimes there isn't a lot of negotiating room, but you guys know your stuff. Like I've had agents say to me, those elevators are going to take forever. You know, there's not enough elevators in that building. Like you can really sort of really overview the project and go, how it's like, is this well designed? Does this meet my client's needs? Like, I really think sometimes we're handcuffed in negotiations because if the market is just that they're selling off the shelves, they're not going to, you know, give concessions or give free lockers or that sort of stuff. But I think your expertise is really like, comparatively, is this a good building? Does it fit my client's needs? Are they going to be waiting for the elevator for 15 minutes to go to the 30th floor? So I really think that you guys add a ton of value because the sales center wants to sell the units, right? That's their job. So if a buyer can have their own agent, it's absolutely ideal. We get involved in the 10-day cooling off period. So that's where, you know, you've gone in, your client signed the agreement, and we review the agreement and it's probably about a 4-page summary of the highlights of what is in there. So if I use an example, I remember there was a project on Jones that, you know, in the fine print, in what they call the disclosure documentation, so that's this binder they give you along with the agreement that isn't looked at very often. And I remember looking through one of those, and it was a smaller project. It was probably about 20 units. And it said in there that if we do not sell all the parking spaces, the condo corp has to buy them. So what that means is your client is actually buying part of them at the end of the day, and there would be a shortfall, you know, in the budget at the condo corporation, and then they'd be making a special assessment or a cash call from all the owners. So that's the kind of stuff that's in the fine print that we're looking for, and that's why, you know, that 10-day cooling off review by a lawyer, we really recommend it. It's not a big money maker for us. It's we charge $300 and it's a couple hours at least of work. And what we do is we go through the fine print and we give your clients a summary of all what can change. You know, basically they can substitute materials as long as it's equal or better quality. The end date. So like you might be signing a contract that says we're going to be ready in 2.5 years. That's what we think. But the contract actually says you're locked in for 7 years, and we need our clients to know that that could happen. Our job is to highlight all the fine print so they know what they're doing. Pre-construction is great, but I want everybody going in with really open eyes about what can happen. Assignments will probably be interesting. We've been doing a ton of assignments anyways. But I think that potentially there may be more that will be coming out of this. And, you know, to Deb's question about like that project in particular, maybe they are all sold, but maybe there's ways in your network that you can reach out to other KW agents and say, anybody got anything that they want to assign? Because I got buyers interested in this project. Assignments typically take place close to occupancy, because that's when the person who's originally bought it is probably going to maximize their profit. But in this situation, I wonder if people are going to be looking to assign earlier. Most of the time, assignments require builder consent. A lot of the times there's a fee for assigning, but at the negotiation stage, so at the 10-day cooling off period, we ask for that fee to be lowered or waived as part of an amendment to the agreement. So if you have an investor client, I ask for it for anybody, because we don't know where we're going to be in 5 years, right? So you're buying something that you think you're going to move into, and then you have triplets and you're not moving in there.
Speaking from experience.
Yeah, speaking for only twins over here. But that's where we're sort of involved, is in that initial 10-day period. And just to highlight, that 10-day period is by law only for condos. So if your client is, mostly we deal with condos, but for freehold, it's not by law. You'd actually have to see that in the contract that they have a cooling off period. That comes up a lot. Right now, we're getting a ton of unavoidable delay notices. So they basically just spit them out on every project, which just means that we have deadlines. The agreement says there are deadlines in here that a builder has to meet, and they have the ability to extend those deadlines. But if they miss certain ones, then there is delayed closing compensation through Tarion, which is up to $7,500. It's $150 a day. And there's an exclusion when there's an unavoidable delay. And an unavoidable delay is exactly what's going on right now, because they don't have access to materials or the people that they need. So the builders aren't punished. Basically, that's there as a penalty for the builders not meeting their timelines, and clients get compensation for that. But in this situation, there's no penalty to the builders because it's not their fault.
Yeah.
Last thing I'll note, sort of on new construction, which is always confusing, and I hope I can explain it clearly, is HST. So HST on new construction, the way that new construction is marketed is that HST is included in the price as long as it is going to be your client's primary residence. So if your client is buying a second property that they're using as a pied-à-terre, they're going to pay the amount of the HST rebate, which is about $25,000 on top of the price. If your client is buying it as an investment property, it's going to be a rental, they're going to have to pay that $25,000 in addition to the price on closing and apply to CRA afterwards to get what's called the rental property or investment property rebate. So it's always confusing to people. They think, and it's not the full 13% HST that you pay on top of the price. It's just the amount of the rebate that the builder would have got from CRA if your client was moving into it as their primary residence. When the builder doesn't get that, they charge that to you. And that's all.
I can add something to that, Kate. Thank you very much for that. I'm looking forward to our call later. On the rebate, the interesting thing is that the rebate, and maybe you can add to this, the rebate goes with the title of the property. So if your client, so what I'm finding in Liberty Village where I'm based, so all of these new condos, so I sold a resale to an investor client who usually purchases pre-con. We diversified him a little bit 2 years ago, thank goodness. And his condo, the people that lived there, the original purchasers from the builder, never got the rebate. They never took the rebate. So he was able to do the rebate now, and he gets $25,000 back, and he just bought the place. So the rebate goes with the title, just so. And there is, his name is Mark Purdy. I don't know if you've heard of him. So he's kind of a specialist in that area on getting the HST rebates back, because not a lot of people are familiar, and he will do that, like the application, he'll do everything for you. So it's a great resource, and I can add his number and everything for that. And then just back to the builder consent. The builder consent is usually, it's usually just, you know, a signature, but it's usually because all of the units in that style 1-bedroom is sold out already in the building, so that they're not competing. Your sale of your assignment is not competing with the units that he may have or she may have already still available in the building. And builder consent on that. Yeah, so that was all. Yeah. all I wanted to add.
Kate Den was asking, how long does it take to get that rebate back?
I don't know exactly, but my clients have shared with me. A lot of people do it themselves. It is a fairly straightforward form. And I think the last client that did it, it was a rental rebate, and I think she got it back in about 3 months.
And then
Yeah, that's
Tanya asked if the rebate if you're keeping it as a rental, do you get it back after paying the $25,000 if you've decided to rent it?
You do, but the conditions are that it has to be at least a 1-year lease.
Yeah.
And you have to give them a copy of the lease. It's an incentive to create rental properties, right? So if you were buying it to do Airbnbs, you couldn't get it.
There was also another question that was sent to me privately instead of everyone, I guess. You know, sometimes you get replying to people. And the question was, regarding price at close, are new units less than comparable resale units?
More. You like the resale value?
Yes,
So the resale value as opposed to the pre-construction?
that's correct.
On
That was their
closing?
question, I believe, yes.
Yeah,
I
that was
think
my
market values-
question. So you
Yeah.
said that the pre-construction were going to be more expensive than resale, but on close, like you buy the pre-construction, but when you actually are getting it, is that going to still be more expensive than comparable units that are resale, or is it now lower?
The largest increase in value happens in the first 3 years from purchasing it from the developer before it's a resale. So it gains the most value from builder price to assignment. Assignment is probably $200,000, sometimes more. I'll put it into a percentage maybe for next time, but I work in downtown Toronto, so that's usually the case with the assignments. And then on resale, so now they've lived in it for a year. We're talking like 7 years, maybe
sorry,
later.
Sorry, what I was asking was compared to units that are resale, not reselling it, but say like playground condos are now people are taking occupancy and moving in. If you compare that to like a unit that's already been lived in for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. So is it now a good deal?
It's neighborhood by neighborhood, right? So, and in downtown, you have like, if the neighborhood is $1,000 a square foot, everything's $1,000 a square foot. So resale would be comparable. The difference with a 20-year-old or a 15-year-old condo is they're much bigger. So you're gonna have less dollar per square foot, but you're gonna have a larger condo. So that's, you know, I think people that purchase new construction as a resale, playground is delayed. It's going to be delayed another 2 years. So there won't be occupancy in the next year with playground, just so that you know. But everybody wants to live in the new building, right? It's like they've got all the new amenities, the yoga rooms, the pet studios, so it really depends on what people are looking for. They usually resale, they buy something in a specific building downtown. They don't say, I'm interested in Yonge and Eglinton. They say, no, I want this building at Yonge and Eglinton, or you know, and that's a little further north for me, but downtown is like specific buildings. So I can't really, so they're all like, it's comparable. If you were to look at an older building, which we don't have too many of those anymore, it's comparable. St. Lawrence Market, for instance, St. Lawrence Market has got some older buildings and those have risen in value comparably. So they're both pretty much the same as a resale value.
Ovi is asking if the downtown market has seen any discounts as yet. 10 to 15% price drops.
No,
I didn't think so.
No, nothing.
Ovi, it's downtown Toronto. You're not getting a discount.
Yeah, trust me. There's thousands of people just waiting for that second that it happens, and it's just not, you know.
Any other questions? Other than HST, are there other extra costs on pre-construction? What are you asking, Tanya? What are the other extra costs in pre-construction compared to resale?
So there's a big long list, and it's in a section called adjustments. in the new construction contract, and we go line by line and say, this is an extra cost, this is an extra cost, this is an extra cost, you know, just on average, and we can never sort of hold to averages, but I would say, you know, on a $500,000 condo, you're probably looking at 5 to 10,000 in additional costs, and on a $1 million condo, I'd bump that up to 10 to 15. Some of them are going to be spelled out in the contract. They're going to say the fee is 300 plus HST for this specific item, and then some of them are not going to be spelled out. Some of them are just going to say any increase in development fees that were charged by the city. And those are always the biggest ones: development fees, education levies, park levies, that sort of stuff. We ask for a cap on those, and that's something that you can always ask for at the sales center when you're there with your client, is what are you capping the development charges on? They'll have an idea, and I would say most builders will give a cap, because it's really unfair to sort of have this unknown. But they also have an unknown, because they don't know what the city's going to be charging them when the project's done completely. Like, the rates can go up, and they're passing that, when they're doing their pricing out, they're passing that on to the buyer. Probably the biggest development charges I saw recently, I think it was a project on, I want to say Eastwood or Eastdale or something around Kingston Road. And then the Urban Corp ones, those were townhouses, but Urban Corp's townhouses on, you know, probably had $20,000 development charges. So you are signing up for some unknowns in pre-construction, and we try and highlight those for clients as well. The price is not the price. It basically is what I have to tell clients. Your price is your base price, and these are the add-ons.
I'm working on, I'm working on one right now that is the above the Y in the beach. He bought it 3 years ago. And so the developer has come after him and said, we have occupancy. We're good to go. We can get in. We can't see it without hard hats. There are no safety railings on the balcony. The elevator is not working yet. And, you know, this is the reason why you have an agent and why you have a lawyer. The lawyer has said, you know, buzz off. We're not taking occupancy yet.
You don't have to. You don't have to take occupancy. And and Candace, that is what's happening in every building that's close to occupancy right now. Over the last 2 weeks, my clients who's building, like, it's pretty much move-in-able, except, you know, maybe they don't have certain things. Like, one of them doesn't have a kitchen. Like, how can you take occupancy? I think it's against the law. So the builders are rushing to try and get occupancy, because now they get another tranche of cash, right, at that time. So when people take occupancy, that's kind of when they get paid ultimately. So be very aware, and Kate can add to that as well, because occupancy, that's essentially when you get your keys and you own it. So
and if somebody was doing that and had not been working with a realtor or working with the lawyer, could they have actually given the builder the occupancy money?
Yeah.
Wow.
They could go in, like, you can go in, like I told my client now, they have, just last week, they're being forced to take occupancy without seeing the unit. So I said, oh, no. So I work both sides, right? I work with the investors for the developers, like my clients, as well as the developers. So I'm kind of in between on a lot of circumstances. So yeah, some interesting things are going to happen in the next 6 months, that's for sure.
I would say that this is, you know, sort of a client expectation sort of thing. New construction sometimes equals perfection in people's minds, and it's not. And in the contract, and we point this out in our review, you have to take occupancy if it meets minimum building standards. So that means the city's gone in and says this is occupiable. That can mean you don't have a sink in the kitchen. You have to use the sink in the bathroom. It can mean things like that. Yeah, like running water in the bathroom.
Toilet, right. Minimum.
So I find that is it's all we can do around that is set client expectations and still push for things. We might not legally have the right to not occupy, but like, is there some way around this PDI? Can someone take pictures? You do have, so the PDI is when you go in and you make sure that everything's you know, built well and that sort of stuff. But you also have 30 days after you occupy where you submit another form, you know, mentioning anything that wasn't noticed on the first go round. So, you know, in the case where a builder's saying, you know, we're going to do the PDI for you, which is happening right now, we're going to give you a list and we're going to go through your unit and tell you what needs to be fixed. You've got the opportunity to revisit it. And that's what I try and say to my clients is like, yes, this is not ideal. But this is my advice, is that you've got protection. Go in there, write everything down. And if the builder's representative missed it, then you can add it on the 30-day form.
Any questions, anybody? Laura, did you want to do anything with construction, new build? Laura?
Yeah, hi. I don't have a ton to add to. I mean, Angela and Carol and everybody and Kate have, sounds like, done a lot more of this than I have. My take is the only thing I stress is that when I do talk to buyers about new construction, I always bring it into part of our buyer consult meetings and talk about the fact that when you walk in there, you're basically walking into the seller's arms, and they are looking out for the builder's best interests. And it's important that you have somebody who's looking out for your best interests. And then I tell anecdotal stories about, you know, new construction that I've sold and how we've been able to negotiate things like added features or upgrades to their kitchens or things like that, that other buyers who have gone directly to the builder haven't been able to secure. So there is a benefit to having somebody looking after their best interests. That's all I would add. I mean, I use another site as well. I thank you for the Buzz Home in Urban Toronto. Those weren't ones that I use. I use another one. It's called Condos Now, and it also has some information on it as well. So that's all I have to add.
Can I add in sort of who I find that, because listening to all of these, you know, sort of cautionary tales or information that, you know, you kind of need to know about buying pre-construction, you might say like, well, who does that make sense for then if there's all of these negatives? I've sold, I think, probably 6 new construction this year, like since January. And I can share with you that it's been primarily through 2 groups. So investors, not a ton, to be honest with you, because I think a lot of investors, you know, although there's great returns to be made, sometimes they want to just jump in with both feet and buy something where there's a renter, you know, in place, or where they can, you know, get a renter in place very quickly. I've had a couple of my purchases this year to be like people who are working professionals, but are either living at home with their parents. So they have, you know, good down payment saved, but there isn't sort of an immediacy to moving out of the house. So, you know, you look at those people who are in their like late 20s, maybe they have some cash, maybe their parents are willing to put some cash down so that eventually, you know, they can move out, but they don't need to move out like tomorrow. This gives them an opportunity to buy something, have it grow in value. Because remember, when you're the deposit structure, you know, the deposit structure, maybe Angela can, you know, speak to this more as well, is different between every builder. I've seen some as low as like 5% between now and occupancy. The Stockyards District condo was that for a long time, or sorry, not
that was actually one of our developers. So that was one that we sold, right? Stockyards. And yeah, there's some great incentives, and it really depends on the developer, right? So any incentives, of course, the developer does is going to, you know, it's coming out of the bottom line as well, right? So if they need to sell it, they, you know, they can put some good things together. Garrison Point, we did an original sellout. If you bought two condos, you had 20% down, 5% for one and 15% for the other. So, and there was no difference on which one you put the 5%. So people were buying 2 bedrooms at the 5% and buying a small studio or a 1 bedroom at the 15%. So that was kind of an interesting thing, but it's always 25%. Like on closing, it's 20, like your deposit is in. It's not like you get a better deal or you only pay 5%. And sometimes now as you get closer to closing, and if let's say they still have units, maybe they didn't sell it out or there's a few units left, you can buy those units at 5% and then pay the rest on closing. So they always get their 25% one way or another. It's just how it's organized basically for your clients. So
Yeah. So anyways, when you're thinking about, who can I, if you're looking at this as like lead generation, or you're saying, how do I approach my database, or who in my database might be, interested in buying pre-construction. If you look at those clients that you have, again, like the adult children living at home, or the renters who are in rental, that are in a situation where they have a down payment saved, but they're paying like a really antiquated rent. So for example, 3 of my buyers probably in the last year are all paying way, way below market value rent. And they're like, we've got the money for a down payment, but we know that, if we bought something, our carrying costs would go up on a monthly basis. So, now we're paying a mortgage and maintenance fee and, property taxes, but we're living in this 2-bedroom in High Park and paying $1,700 a month. So I will often suggest to them that they buy pre-construction, because then, they've got the security of being able to stay in their, in their rental until they are, until the occupancy date of the condo, but they're still seeing their money kind of grow and appreciate in the market. So they're still getting into the market without really jumping in sort of with both feet. So that's a great opportunity. Again, the parents with adult kids at home, or even parents who've got kids that are headed off to university, and say, for example, you've got clients that are like, well, what, if I'm going to be paying for my kids to rent downtown, I might as well buy a 1-bedroom and, let them live there, essentially, since I'm paying costs for them to be living downtown. Or I'll buy a 2-bedroom and then they'll cost share it. I've got I sold my sister-in-law condo like that for my niece, and they recoup more than half of the cost of the condo every month from the 2nd bedroom that they rent out to somebody that goes to school with my niece. So those people, really, I think, fertile ground if you just go through your database and think about like who meets that criteria. So I get a lot of people with that. And then the other thing too, I had a lot of success with people who are looking for very specific custom spaces. So for example, I had buyers that were they wanted like 3,500 square foot, minimum 2 parking spaces, but preferably 3 in Leslieville. I mean, that's a unicorn. Like, they just don't exist. So I went to all of the builders that had projects that were, in pre-sale, and Wonderlofts, which was almost completely sold out, had a bunch of their penthouses left. And we actually approached them, and they were able, it took like 4 months to work out the deal, but they combined 2 of their penthouses, and we worked out a pricing for that. So sometimes if you've got a buyer that's looking for something really, really specific, and usually at a much higher price point, you can approach a builder and say, like, listen, we've got a budget of $2 million. They need something that's really special. Like, what can you do for us? And that's obviously when the building is built, that's not possible, because that sometimes requires, moving HVAC and mechanicals and things like that. But sometimes, especially at the higher price point, they will be willing to do that. I had another client interested in a project out on Kingston Road in Guildwood, and there was a 2-bedroom left, only 1 unit, and the builder said, if they're interested in a 1-bedroom, I can split that. We've got 1 2-bedroom left, and I can split it into 2 1-bedrooms. So sometimes even just asking, what other inventory, do you have any other inventory that's not released yet? Is there anything we can do? This is what they're looking for them for. And, sometimes if you're on a project that isn't like selling like hotcakes, sometimes they will be willing to make accommodations for you as well. The other group that I've had a lot of success with is those, first-time buyers who are really getting knocked around in the marketplace in resales. So, they go and look at a 500 square foot condo in Liberty Village. They love it. And there's 18 other offers on offer date, and they keep getting outbid. The pre-construction experience of buying is very, very different. So in resale, you go to the building, you hope the key's in the lockbox, you wait for the other 5 showings that are happening at the same time to go in. You hope there's no preemptive. Offer day comes, you better have your status certificate reviewed ahead of time and your financing in line. When you sell pre-construction, you literally go into the sales office, somebody offers you a cappuccino, usually. Like, it's, you say, okay, this is our budget. What do you have available between 500,000 and 600,000? They show you all of the options. Do you want parking? Do you not want parking? Which kitchen do you want? Do you want the brown one? Do you want the gray one? Which direction do you want to face? It's a really different buying experience. And then if your client likes it, they can enter into an agreement of purchase and sale right there on the spot, and they have 10 days to back out of it if they're not happy with it. So it's a very, very, very different buying experience. And for those buyers that are really getting kicked around by the market out there, and they've lost a bunch of different times, sometimes just the opportunity to go in and to just, have it at a much, much less frenzied pace and a little bit more selection is really advantageous to them. And they just run into the builder's arms with like open arms. It's like their come to Jesus moment in real estate. It's so different. I sold a pre-construction a couple of months ago. I had 2 deals on the same day. One was a resale, and it was like had been on the market 4 hours. There was 4 offers. I was on the phone with the buyer, the seller's agent, and my clients like 18 times over the course of the evening, back and forth. And it was like knock 'em, rock 'em, knock 'em, sock 'em out, like it is sometimes with resale. And then earlier that day, I had been in the pre-construction site for Reunion Crossing, which is up at St. Clair and Weston Road. And it's like my happy first-time buyers who are like signing their agreement of purchase and sale on their iPad, and I'm taking a picture with my phone of them like pressing the buy button together, like smiles and thumbs up. It's a very, very different buying experience, and sometimes that can be really advantageous. It certainly makes your job a lot easier, I think, with pre-construction.
And you get 4%.
Sometimes, not all the time, but that's sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I had another question here from, Effie says she loves Carol's creative solution for condo buyers. Thanks, Carol. I have one here from Dan who, the occupancy deficiencies, is there a timeline to have that done? When they do the PDI and they give you the list, what's the timeline, Kate? Angela? Oh, Kate, your mute button's on.
I don't know the exact timelines, or even if everything does have an exact timeline, it becomes sort of we're sort of out of it at that point, and the buyer, which is sometimes frustrating for them, is dealing directly with the builder, who may or may not be responsive. The backup to it, so the client's dealing with the builder, and then if the builder doesn't remedy it to reasonable satisfaction, then that's where the client goes to Tarion. So it is a long process. I'm not going to pretend it's here are the problems and they're fixed. It is a back and forth with the builder. That's where the builder's reputation, which you guys can also comment on when you're bringing them around to different projects, is it Tridel or is it some person you've never heard of? So that's a builder's gonna want to remedy that. They want to have a good reputation with Tarion, but every time that I'm involved, clients are pretty frustrated with the rectification of deficiencies. It's not like, from a business perspective, it's not their top priority anymore. If your fridge has a dent in it.
Kate, it is a priority. I disagree with that. It is a priority for them. I'll just explain it to everybody how it actually works. And even when you move into a condo too, like we had a flood in my building a couple of years ago, and every floor was damaged from the 15th floor down, kitchens, floors, you name it. So when it comes to deficiencies, this is a construction company, right, that's going to take care of the deficiencies. So how construction is, you have a painting team, you have a taping team, you have a floor team, you have a kitchen team, you have a bathroom tile team. So they do all of those things like as the process. So they'll do all of the floor tiles, and then they'll do all of the, so it comes in stages, and it's stages to do the most units, right? So the deficiencies, everybody knows, the developer knows they're going to have deficiencies. So let's say they'll look at the deficiencies and say, okay, we've got 15 units with, cabinets that are not straight or something. So get the cabinets. So the cabinet guy, the door guy for the cabinets goes in, and then the guy that puts the countertop in goes in. And so it's like stages. So it is a long process. So, and trust me, the developer wants it done because they want Tarion to sign off, right? So Tarion needs to sign off on that, right? And give them, so, because it's registered with Tarion for the deficiencies. So it is a priority to them to get that finished, but it's the stages that we don't understand. Like when they ripped out my kitchen when there was a flood, they came and they ripped everything out, you know, and then they did the floors, and then they did the cabinets, and then they did the kitchen, the countertops, and then the appliances. Like even the people that move the appliances are not the taping guys that tape the wall behind the appliance. So the guy that comes in to tapes only comes in and tapes. That's it. He doesn't move appliances. So if the appliance guy didn't move the appliance, you know, he doesn't move it. He's going to wait for the guy to move the appliance. But that guy's in the other unit, down the road, down the street, or down the corridor, right? So it's, I learned a lot going through that process. So living through it was interesting. But yeah, so
That's
there's
really
different,
good.
yeah, right. Just
I'll take it back. The way to
Yeah.
explain it to a client, I guess, is that they're not coming in to just fix your unit. It's a process.
Yeah, and
where they
there's
have to-
different teams. Like there's probably going to be 100 people that go through that unit to
Mhm.
fix, you know, to fix something in the kitchen, or, you know, to do something
Yeah.
like that. So each team, like there's a taping team, there's a drywall team, there's a painting team, there's flooring teams, and the flooring team's not even that, you know, they cut them, but they don't lay them. That's somebody else. So
Right.
It's
Right.
yeah, it's a lot of people involved in just putting the kitchen back together, right? So yeah, so I thought I'd just add that, just hope that helped answer the question. But even when you move into a building and something happens, it's good to know too.
Any more questions? Ovi, you were asking about what were you asking here? Can an appraisal pose a problem on resale prices continue to slowly slide for pre-con? Do banks look at MLS sales of resale unit? Those are already lower than pre-construction. I think appraisals are going to pose a problem on a lot of properties. So if it's way off, I would suggest I've asked many a time for another appraiser to come in.
Yeah.
Many a time.
So how off? Like I have clients that purchase and expect to close in August. If prices drop 80,000, they're already struggling to make the 20 or the last 5%, whatever. So I'm just trying to be proactive.
On pre-construction that hasn't closed?
Yeah, it hasn't closed. Yeah, it's gonna be ready, like for occupancy probably in August and title at the end of the year. So
They're going to do another. The appraisals are being done 3 times now, right? So there's a site visit, there's a MLS search, and then there's a final search. So on that final appraisal, don't worry until the final appraisal, I'm going to say, because it's going to change day to day right now in the market. So
because MLS prices in average are lower by 10-15% anyway versus pre-construction prices. And then if MLS prices keep sliding like 3% or whatever we've seen recently with the situation, what will happen for those guys? Because they're locked in a contract. Yeah.
Yeah, like Candace said, that, you know, get another appraisal, get as many appraisals as you need. And then if there is a shortfall, borrow short-term money for the difference.
So
You know?
maybe we need to start telling people that when they buy pre-construction now, they have more than 20, have another 10 just in case. As a
It has to
contingency.
be 25%. It's 25%. Yeah. Yeah. It's always a
I
good.
actually was going to
20.
ask, what is the average of a pre-con to close? It's like 3 to 5 years time frame, but what is the average appreciation on a pre-construction to close? Like, it's a great amount.
It's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge. And Carol was talking about those first-time buyers. There's first-time investors, and my investors like everything, and we're Keller Williams, so we're, you know, expectations are really important for your clients. So they have first-time investors that have never invested, and they take a little bit more care, but man, they have never made so much. Like, they made so much money. They've never made any of that, like that kind of money in anything, stock market, nothing. So the appreciation, the appreciation is probably 20 to 25%. On average, but it's also 100%. Like, it's gone from, you buy a place at 300,000, it's worth, you know, $100,000 every year more. So
And
the
with
longer,
little exposure. It's not like they have,
and nothing, and they've had, you know,
very little exposure for that income.
Yeah. So, you know, just on the fact that the building, as soon as people start to see, just like Deb had said earlier, when people start to see the hole in the ground, like, wow, something's going up. What's going up? Oh, let's go check it out. So there's appreciation in, it's a wanted property, but the most appreciation in new construction and in condos, period, is in those first 3 years from the builder. That's when you're going to find the most appreciation. My client, brand new investor, took a long time. Man, he missed out on a lot of really good stuff, and he's kicking himself now. Oh, wish we did this, wish we did that. But he did one here in Liberty Village, which was great. So he made $300,000 in 2 years, and he's like, what? I've never made that kind of money in my life. And he's on disability, so he is thrilled, and he wants to do it again. So we've got a plan in place to build his wealth. Right. So it's a great opportunity to help people, and just know, you have to know what you're selling, just like listing luxury properties, or, take the time to do the research, talk to people, make the calls. If you don't know the answers, call who's
hot, but I'm excited to,
Hello?
Yeah, somebody else was talking, so I was like, oh, I don't know if I
I think there's another Zoom call getting ready to come in, so it might be that we're taking
very
off.
good.
Any other questions we might have of Kate? Thank you so much. Carol Froderick, always a wealth of knowledge. Angela Wood, I love you. Thank you so, so much.
Love you too.
Can I just
And
add
welcome
something
back,
quick?
baby.
Anybody who is looking for a reason to call their database, if anybody who bought 5 years ago or 4 years ago is getting ready to do their 5-year mortgage approval, have this conversation about the fact that they've now got access to equity. Their value of their house has gone up a huge chunk. They're sitting on a big chunk of cash. The time to take out $100K against their house and turn it into 300 by the time a condo is built. Take advantage of that. So anybody who's bought 4 to 5 years ago, you should be on the phone with them now, talking about the benefits of buying something pre-construction, so that they can pay off their mortgage faster, so that they can pay off their kids' education faster. Have those conversations. Or somebody who's been in their house for 20 years, they've been in your database, you don't know why you're still reaching out to them. It's because they've got $1 million in cash, and they can leverage that into a whole bunch of passive wealth creation. And just, what, in this time, guys, I've mentioned this to you before, I'm a landlord. I own 22 rental units. Like, thank goodness for that in this market, because with the prospect of, I don't know when I'm going to sell another house, it sure is nice to have some passive income coming in right now. So I know I'm not the only one. Tanya's on this call. She's a big time landlord as well. Like, you know what, this is, it's good time to be a landlord. So when is it not a good time to be a landlord anyway?
Right. Thanks,
A
everybody.
question.
Okay.
Do we have any VIP agent that I can partner with, and let's say split somehow the 4% in case we get access to VIP allocations in our brokerage?
I can help you with that. So platinum, we're not VIP, we're different. We're platinum, and better than platinum even. So friends and family. So yeah, Angela Wood at kw.com.
Okay, thank you, Angela.
You're welcome.
Thank you,
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
And I
Nice
just
to meet
wanted
you all.
to remind everybody of the Keller Williams Canada agent call that's happening in about half an hour.
Oh,
It's gonna be a weekly
I didn't know
call
about that.
Every
That's interesting.
Wednesday. Every
is that?
Wednesday.
I didn't even know that happens.
What is
It should have been an email that was sent out to everybody, I believe. It was just recent.
I'm just not in your market center, so I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you so much. Nice to meet you.
Same to you. Take care, Angela.
Bye.